And welcome back, everyone, to What If, the week of What If. And from, what do we got here? Dark Joker underscore 25. The question is, what if Hercule Satan trained like Goku? Okay, so there's actually a really big issue with this kind of question that I'm sure you don't want to hear, but this is the way I'm approaching it. If Hercule actually tried to do the straight training, a lot of the straight training that Goku did, and some of the most intensive training, he would die. Hercule is an impressive normal human in the general world of Dragon Ball Z. But he's not even a real human. He's not even a Z fighter level human like Krillin or Yamcha or even Chaozu could kick his ass. He is a martial arts champion by normal human standards. But the question becomes, if he were to train like Goku, what would actually have happened? Well, to answer this question to any varying degree, we have to understand when Hercule actually came on the scene. Hercule came on the scene, roughly speaking, between the early Dragon Ball Z and early Dragon Ball Z, like around Rad's era saga, and the Namek saga. There had been many other martial arts tournaments since the martial arts tournament at the end of Dragon Ball. Sorry, for some reason the pressure in my ears my ears are popping. Anyway, there have been many tournaments between, like, he had won a lot of tournaments. Like, one of them he won legitimately, the other is because, like, someone had food poisoning or whatever. But he is, in fact, a legit world martial arts champion. So, if we were to break down him training in the same way that Goku does, we had to break down how Goku trained. And let's just go bit by bit by bit by bit. If we're talking about, like, say, Goku's standard exercises, that surprisingly is not all that problematic for Hercule to deal with. I mean, yeah, Goku has done literally a trillion sit-ups in the span of like an hour or something like that, which is insane. But that's not the issue. The issue of training comes down to all the other things that Goku has learned, such as the ability to utilize his ki, flight, energy sensing, doing the training at Korin's Lookout. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Hercule tried to do the Ultra Divine Water training, I have a feeling that would kill him. Hercule, while not being a bad guy, he's not a bad guy. In fact, Hercule's a relatively good guy, all things considered. But he is not pure-hearted enough to. Even Yajirobe took a taste of that and was on the ground, like, oh my god, it's poison. It nearly killed Goku when he drank the Ultra Divine Water. If we're factoring every form of training Goku did, which would include drinking the Ultra Divine Water, which is not technically training, but it would have been part of this, I think Hercule would die right there, which would mean then he's not there to convince Boo, and everything kind of goes south. Actually, no, it wouldn't, theoretically, because Hercule might have convinced Boo to reform, but, yeah, actually, no. B still would have been killed, so he still would have turned into, he still probably would have turned into Super Boo, so yeah, Hercule being there is kind of irrelevant in some ways. With regard that, or Boo's just going to keep going around the planet and just destroying things until Gotenks eventually destroys him. So, which would mean then Beerus is not bothered by having pudding, but Goku isn't brought back to the world of the living, at least not right out of the way. I mean, he might still be brought back to the world of the living. Maybe Supreme Kaiji says, "Yeah, we're good. Just go," and you get to have your life back one more time. So maybe he comes back, and therefore you'd still get all the super without, Hercule Satan doing anything. But let's assume for a moment that he could survive it. Okay, well, what would happen next? He'd eventually have to learn to utilize his ki, which is not impossible. But here's the thing: he's not Goku. He's also not Krillin or Tien or Yamcha. I don't see him learning the Kamehameha within the amount of time that those guys learned the Kamehameha. I'm not saying it takes the full 50 years. I'm just saying. So, Hercule probably takes longer to learn the Kamehameha. He learns to fly. He's like, oh my god, I can fly! Whoa! Bow to me, people! I'm Hercule Satan, your God and Lord and Savior! Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Yeah, we know. The orgy's about to begin, sir. So, yeah. But this is all just the Dragon Ball stuff, too. Eventually, if he somehow makes it to Kami's lookout to train, I guess if he gets permission, he tries to train with Popo. But again, he just doesn't have the same. He'll never be on the same level as someone like Goku. Hell, he wouldn't even be on the same level as someone like Krillin, for God's sake. Well, no, actually, that's not fair. Krillin is the strongest human. That's confirmed. So he wouldn't be on the same level as someone like Yamcha. Even Yamcha, by the time, who I believe is younger than Satan? How old is Yamcha in comparison to Satan? That's a good question. But who's younger than Satan, admittedly? Even Yamcha had a power level 177. Hercule Satan's power level, while never fully revealed, I think I've looked it up before. He's somewhere in the low or mid 10 multipliers. Between like a 60 and a 90. He's actually not that. He's actually strong for a normal person. Hercule Satan, hold on. Hercule Satan power level. Can I see if there is an actual statement of pure level? Let's see. Hercule Satan power level. Okay, do we have any confirmed? Like, it's not a confirmed power. I know that for a fact. His power level is very low, but he does know martial arts, though has no clue. Yeah, so an average person is around 5 to 10. But V-Jump apparently did estimate him at one point to be around 30, or power level 38. But his real strength lies in durability, charisma, and trickery, allowing him to secretly having strength comparable above average humans, most likely around between 50 and 100, though he's vastly weaker than even early Dragon Ball Z characters like Krillin. And therein lies the problem, is that even with training, I don't know if we could say he'd be stronger than, say, Tien or Krillin. Because he's older, first off. He would start training a lot later in life. If we were to, like, max out his potential with Goku's training, I mean, Krillin was, for a very short time in Dragon Ball, stronger than Goku, but then there's the hyperbolic time chamber to take into consideration. Yeah, oh no, he wouldn't handle the hyperbolic time chamber well at all. If Goku couldn't do it as a kid, there's no way Hercule, who does not have the same mental fortitude as Goku, could handle that. So yeah, no joke, he would be lucky. Well, to be fair, Goku didn't go through these pendulum room training. I think he did it back in Dragon Ball, though. No, I take it back. I think he might have done that in Dragon Ball. So if we give him the opportunity to do that training, maybe, and then somehow put him through the same training as King Kai, with King Kai, like trying to learn the Kaioken, which no other person, by the way, has ever learned in Dragon Ball Z. And you have 4 different characters who went to train with I just put all of them with 5 fingers. 4 different characters who went to train with King Kai. Why is it that only Goku knew Kaioken? And even then, and then you decide, oh no, we're going to give him Super Saiyan, so Kaioken becomes irrelevant. Yeah, we'll give it back to him a little bit in Super, but nah, Kaioken becomes irrelevant. Like, then what was the point? And like, seriously, I know there's like some sort of pride honor thing about it with like Tien or Piccolo, but Yamcha could have made use of that. Straight up, Yamcha could have made use of Kaioken. Are you kidding me? And by the time they got back, they were way stronger than Goku was when he came back from King Kai's, because they had enough time to train for. Sorry, they had a longer time, I think, to train, I believe, and they were training together, which is always more beneficial. And they were already stronger when Goku got there to begin with. So even though they had it was a higher ceiling decline, they had an easier path to getting stronger than Goku when he came back from King. I'd have to believe they were stronger than Goku when he came back from King Guys, because they were already stronger when they showed up. Yeah, you had Kaioken on there, that'd be amazing. I don't know how Hercule's someone who could commit to Kaioken or Spirit Bomb, to be honest. He's just not that type of person. So even if you did put him through the same training as Goku, the type of training Goku, also, we don't know what type of training he went through to learn God Ki. Well, to re-access his God Ki. I mean, Vegeta learned it on his own, so we know there's training you can do to go through it. But even still, even if I'm being generous, and I am talking generous here, saying that he was able to go through every single training that Goku went through and come out alive and sane, his power still wouldn't be anything. His power might be higher than Tien's, which we don't know what Tien's power level actually is. I don't think it'd be higher than Krillin's, though, because Krillin has potential unlocked, too. That's something that Krillin and Goku didn't have that, so he doesn't get that benefit. If he had his potential unlocked, you could argue he'd be stronger than Krillin. I don't think he'd be stronger than Krillin, which means he'd still be more or less kind of useless for the story as a whole. Although, that means he could be a candidate for the Tournament of Power, to be fair. It also means he'd be able to sell the whole Savior of the World bit a lot more effectively. And he'd actually be comparable to the Z Fighters on some level. He could actually stand toe-to-toe with a couple of them and not feel as inadequate. Not be scared when they're showing off like Super Saiyan and planet-busting attacks or anything like that. And he's like, it's a trick. One day I'll prove it to the world. No, he wouldn't do that. He would actually probably say, no, I didn't say. He would either say, they helped me save the world. He'd probably do that. Because he'd at least have respect for these guys. Like, these guys can do what they do and, frankly, do it better. But even if I am being, I guess, like I said, as nice as I can possibly be to Hercule, and even say he's got God Ki after the training Goku went through, Saiyans sadly are just naturally stronger than humans. So a God Ki human, and this is just my interpretation of it. You can tell me I'm flat out wrong for this assumption if you want. But this is my interpretation. I would imagine a human with God Ki, the same type of God Ki that Goku learns to access, is just not as strong as Goku or Vegeta is. That being said, he'd probably be third strongest of the Z Fighters at that point, which means he could participate in some things. He could. He could even fight against Frieza for a little bit. I would say this. Also, having all this strength from the training would help in increasing his confidence in himself. And give him, I mean, this is the guy who, he couldn't do a damn thing against him, still tried to punch Kid Buu. Still tried to actually fight him. Even though he got pissed off that he was hurting his friend. And despite it all, despite his cowardness, actually tried to fight him. Like, look, is he kind of a coward? Yeah, but he's a coward. He's the proper type of coward where it's like, oh yeah, I'm a strong, normal human. These guys are gods. They could break me like a twig. That's a understandable and rational fear. So for him to actually go up against Kid Buu and say, F it, you son of a bitch! Yeah, you gotta give him credit. That's legit bravery right there. That's legit courage. Hercule, for all of his follies, and we still love Hercule, Satan. Let's not mince words. We still love Hercule. Hercule, for all of his follies, though, actually is a good person and actually is a hero. Like, we kind of sometimes overlook it a little bit, but he is, in fact, a hero. So, yeah, I mean, Hercule, Satan. So if you add God Ki on there, he does become a lot more of a threat. He does become actually someone to contend with. But he still would be, at minimum, the third strongest of the Z Fighters. And he would not be able to go up against some of the heavier hitters. Like, again, he's still weaker than Goku and Vegeta, who kind of got their ass kicked a couple times by Goku Black. Couldn't go up against Jiren. He would be the Buu replacement on the team. That I'd feel comfortable in saying. Which means they would not try to bring Frieza into the equation. And that's another thing. He'd probably be able to actually fight Frieza back. Straight up say, who are you? I am the savior of the planet Earth. I am the hero I am the hero that villains bow to. I'm Hercule Satan, mother. And then, rah! And I am the god. And I'm the god who's going to kick your ass. There's a little bit of a Kurobara in his dub voice. He's like, oh, wait. There's a little bit of that. And I'm the hero who's going to kick your ass. He sounds a little bit like a weird version of Macho Man Randy Savage and Kuwabara a little bit. Oh, Frieza, I'm gonna lay down this choke slam on you and beat you for every letter of the alphabet until I reach the letter of my true love's first name. That would be the lovely Elizabeth, by the way. Boom! And so actually, he would be duking it out with base form Frieza for a bit. And Frieza was like, "Fine, human, you are impressive. I don't give you that. Blah! I was saving this for the Saiyan, but I suppose I can show you a little bit of what I've been learning." And then powers up and just lays the ever-loving smackdown on Hercule. Then Goku shows up, and that would actually be at least a little bit of a key moment there, where Hercule actually forced Frieza to get into his to transform into his golden form quicker. So that means Frieza has less time to be in that form, and therefore his power drains a lot faster in that form, which means Goku again beats him pretty soundly, but ultimately it still kind of ends the same way because Frieza played dirty in that scenario. So, with that said, if Hercule did train like Goku, frankly, I think the training for a lot of that would kill him outright. But if it didn't kill him, he ultimately would be he'd be a helpful ally, but he'd also be getting way older too. Like how old is Hercule? Hercule Satan's age. Hold on, Hercule Satan age. Like how old is he when we meet him in Dragon Ball Z? Age. Because we remember when we meet him in the at the end, or when we see him at the end of Dragon Ball Z in the original series, when he sees his Pan and Goku goes to train Oob. Okay, he's starting to bald. So let's see here. Okay, apparently according to this, he died at the age of 64. When we meet him in the Cell games, he's around 31. During the Majin Buu saga, he's around 38, and during the Tournament of Power, he's around 44. So, I mean, he is still, as long as he's keeping in shape, he is still, very powerful and capable. He could still be in shape and still be able to fight. It's all well and good. Yeah, I could believe that. And in fair, he looks like a guy who's at least in his 30s, mid late 30s, easy. I don't know. Maybe it's the 5 o'clock shadow, the hair, the way he holds himself. But yeah, so because he actually died at the age of 84. I apologize. He died at according to the key ages. During Tournament Power, he's 44. That's age 780, and he died during the age of 820. So that's actually he died at the age of 84, which is a good long life. Good long life. Good for Hercule. But yeah, realistically, I think a lot of the training Goku probably went under would straight out kill him. But if he were to manage to survive it, he could become powerful. But that's me giving him every single advantage I can in that. Realistically, I don't see him going through Goku's God training at all. Honestly, I also don't see him just going to King Kai's training without, dying. Which, to be fair, he could. He could bite it. Either way, though, that's my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I'll see you for the next one. Later.